Hey guys, and welcome to this video. Today we're talking about the new Tom Ford eyeshadow palette in Rose Prisme. I'm going to show you close-ups and swatches in natural light, and I'm going to show you how this palette looks on my face. And let's go ahead and get started. If you're new here, a very warm welcome. I love talking about luxury beauty, and I always do my best to show you the latest luxury beauty releases. I also like to show you swatches in natural light so that you can make an informed decision if a product is right for you or not. So if that sounds interesting, please join the fun by subscribing and become part of this amazing beauty community that we have here. It would be such an honor for me to have you as part of this beauty community. If you're returning, welcome back, dear friends. Let me know what you think of this new Tom Ford eyeshadow palette. First of all, when I saw the promo photos of this eyeshadow palette, I was very attracted to the pale lavender shade. Now I'm going to show you close-ups and swatches in natural light, as I always do, and also in direct sunlight, so that you can make an informed decision for yourself to see if the palette is actually going to work for you. Overall, I like the eyeshadow palette. However, I have to admit that this is probably the palest Tom Ford eyeshadow palette that I have in my whole collection. So the pale lavender shade actually barely shows on my eyelids. So I suppose that, I'm not sure how this is going to look on deeper skin tone. I suppose that on medium skin tone, it's even going to show up a little bit more intense, the lavender shade. But on my skin, I have to say that I have it on my eyes. I'm going to show you how it applies, but the colors are definitely very subtle, and we don't have the typical for Tom Ford intense pigmentation of the colors. So this is the wet and dry formula from Tom Ford. So since I've already used the palette once, I want to give you like a quick review of each of the shades. So this shade here is actually a topper shade, which I would say that I would prefer this to be a normal shade because the color is very beautiful. It's like a champagne color, like a nice beige champagne color, but since it's a topper, it has little tiny glitters on it. This shade here is very smooth, very soft, but it's a very pale peachy shade. This, the lavender shade, I was having huge hopes for this shade. Actually barely shows on my eyelids, and I have to try it actually how it's going to look if I use it with a wet brush, but definitely when I use it with a dry brush, it definitely it barely shows on my eyelids. And this color is the most beautiful one. So this is like the most beautiful, very well balanced brown color with a little bit of rosy undertones. So it's a lovely color.
She was in love with a boy, always smiling from ear to ear, and everybody wondered around, will she ever know the feeling of tears? All she said to them was live your life. Come a little closer, I wanna dance with you. Everything's moving slower, I don't know what it is you do. I've been looking at you all night, trying to figure you out. I just wanna make you smile, hold your hand in my hand, looking at the sunset. Man, you're looking good tonight. I wanna kiss you before the sun goes down. It's what you're doing, it's making me feel like I'm falling. And when you're moving, I can hear my calling. There's no one else here that I see but you. It's what you're doing that's making me feel like I'm falling. Yeah, I'm falling in love. I only want you, I wanna kiss you before the sun goes down. It's what you're doing, it's making me
a few days ago I showed you the new Tom Ford eyeshadow palette in Cognac Rose, which was very similar to Body Heat, it was very similar to Honeymoon, and also to Suspicion. Now, as I looked at this eyeshadow palette, I don't think it's very similar to other Tom Ford eyeshadow palettes that I have. The peachy shade is similar to one of the winter collections that was released I think a couple of years back. Unfortunately, I don't have this eyeshadow palette. It was one of the Soleil Neige eyeshadow palettes by Tom Ford. Unfortunately, I don't have it right here with me, but immediately after seeing the pale lavender shade, it reminded me of a Chanel eyeshadow palette. This was I think it was the spring collection, but I don't remember exactly which spring collection. So it reminded me immediately of this Les Quatre Ombres aux Filles de Fleur, which was one of the spring makeup collections by Chanel. And this shade here, in the pan it looks white, but actually has some kind of a lavender hue, lavender undertones. And I'm going to show you comparison swatches. So this shade reminds me of this one. I loved this eyeshadow palette by Chanel. They are quite similar, but the Chanel one appears a little bit more intense on the eyelids. I was thinking that this eyeshadow palette could be similar also to Nude Dip, but it's not really similar. The colors are different. The Nude Dip colors are a lot more brownish, so it doesn't really have a lot of similarities to Nude Dip. However, I found almost like a dupe color to this brown shade here, and this is the eyeshadow palette in First Frost, which was released this year for the winter makeup collection, and this color here is almost like a dupe of the brown color in the new Rose Prisme eyeshadow palette. Okay guys, now I'm ready to share with you my final thoughts on this eyeshadow palette. First of all, I have to say that the colors are a lot more subtle than I expected. They don't have the typical for Tom Ford intense pigmentation, and they're quite pale. Overall, it's a beautiful palette, but somehow I think that I had higher expectations from Tom Ford, and specifically for the lavender shade. I wish the lavender shade was a little bit more intense, because now I really like it. I like this kind of pale lavender shades. However, now as I see it on my eyes, it's almost inexistent, like almost I cannot see it. I can see a hint of color, so this palette is definitely for those of you who don't necessarily want the typical for Tom Ford pigmentation, the typical for Tom Ford intense pigmentation. So I would say that if you like those kind of really subtle looks, subtle colors, I think you're going to enjoy this eyeshadow palette. Keep in mind that here you have one topper shade, so if you enjoy wearing topper shades, then you're going to enjoy it. But if you don't like topper shades, then you have only 3 colors with which you can create a look, and you have one topper shade. I personally don't enjoy a lot topper shades unless it's like a very interesting and very exciting topper shade, which I don't know, rarely I find a really good high quality topper shades. Usually Charlotte Tilbury makes good and high quality topper shades. This one is, I would say, somewhere in the middle. I'm not really super impressed with it, and I know that I don't usually use very much topper shades. So overall, it's a good palette. It all depends on you, what makeup you have in your makeup collection and what is your makeup style. This one definitely doesn't have a lot of pigmentation, so you have to be prepared for this one. That's why I always like to show you swatches in natural light, so that you can see for real how the palette is going to look in real life, and so that you're not surprised when you get the high-end products. So the idea here is to save you money in case you don't want to purchase a specific product. Okay, so that was all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and become part of this amazing beauty community. I would love to have you here, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.